Hey guys, welcome to my Samoan language instruction on to become. Before we get started, here's some vocabulary for you. Okay, so the notions to become and to act as are going to be the things that we're discussing today, and the notion become is expressed as avea ma in Samoan, and you could also translate that as to be right here. You'll see that. And then the notion to act as is translated as phi ma, and you could also translate that as to become or to be. So very similar to the avea ma. And right now, I don't want you to worry about what the dots mean. That just means that something goes in between these expressions, okay? I don't want you to worry about that just yet. We'll get to that in a second, but I do want you to know that the ma at the end of these two notions or expressions, this ma comes before or precedes the object of the sentence. And if you can't remember what the object of the sentence is, it's whatever's receiving the action. Or if you don't like thinking about it that way, ma comes before that which the subject is becoming or acting as. So the subject, that's another grammar word, I guess. The subject is the one that's doing the action, okay, or the one that's the sentence is about, I guess. And so the subject is becoming something or acting as something in this video, in these expressions, I guess would be more appropriate. So whatever the subject is, the ma, you'll use that, and the ma will come before the object. So what I want you to realize is, before we get started, I just want to kind of do maybe a little sentence structure. So we're going to do the first one. We're doing this avea ma right here. And avea will come, and then the subject will go next, okay? And so anything, this happens every time. So avea goes first when I want to use avea, and then the subject, whatever the sentence is about, or whoever's doing the action, or whatever's doing the action, then I'll have a ma come next, and then I'll have my object, okay? This is, and I'm having a hard time with my stylus, I apologize. But anytime I use avea ma, you can see this right here. This is the avea, this is the ... part, and actually let's use, this is the ... part, and these two parts are the avea ... ma part. And then, like I said before, in this part right here, the ma precedes the object in the sentence, okay? Or it comes before the object, or whatever the subject is becoming or acting as, okay? So that's just a little sentence structure for avea, and you do the same thing for the phi ma. You do phi, and then my subject, okay? And my subject could be a noun or a pronoun, and then ma, and then an object, okay? And I'm just going to do obj, okay? So hopefully that kind of just helps. And you don't need to memorize these. Just realize, okay, when I'm doing avea or phi ma, I do the avea or the phi part, and then I do the person that's the subject or the object that's the subject, then the ma, then the object, okay? It's kind of like its own little sentence structure, but it shouldn't be too difficult for you, especially after you've used it a few times or heard it, okay? So let's just see some examples. So John became a member of parliament, okay? So first thing I want you to do is remember that our sentence structure, we will have a tense marker go first. These sentence structures will have tense markers. And then I'll have the phi or the ma, or the avea ma, okay? And that was terrible, so let's try that one more time. Okay, the phi or the avea, okay? Then my subject, and I'm just going to do sub, then my ma, then my object. So this is how the sentence structure goes for when you're using to become or to act as, okay? So this is how it goes. Tense marker, phi or avea, plus my subject, plus my ma, plus my object. And I know it might seem overwhelming, but again, at this point in the course, you should be able to get it a lot better than when we were working on our first sentence structures, okay? So let's just remember, what's my tense going to be in this sentence right here? So John became a member of parliament? Is that the present tense, past tense, future tense? Well, that's the past tense, so I'm going to use sa or na, and in this case it would be na. And if you can't remember that, you probably need to go back to my video that explains the difference between the two. Okay, and so actually before I do that, let's just break this down. So became indicates to me both my tense, and it's going to act as my phrase, my predicate phrase. And so the predicate phrase in this case is become. It's acting as my predicate phrase. So became tells me the beginning of the sentence, and that's going to be na. And then we're going to do our pattern here. We're going to do, so tense marker went first, then we're going to do avea. Okay. Then who's the one that's the subject? Who's the one that's the sentence is about? That's John. So John comes next, and that would be Ioane in Samoan. Okay, Ioane. And then the next thing I need to remember is ma comes right after my subject, and then it comes before the object of the sentence. And the object of the sentence is this whole thing right here, a member of parliament. Okay, that whole thing in this case is the object. So I would just say in Samoan, se fai pule. Whoops. Fai pule. Okay. So we just translated that first sentence. This say right here is and then member of parliament, you just put fai pule for that whole thing. So there's the first sentence. So now you know how to say a member of parliament. And then the second sentence is he acted as the father of the family. So in this case, I'm not going to use the avea. I'm going to do the act as part, and that's the phaima. So he acted as the father of the family. Again, this is a past tense, but in this case, I'm going to use sa. And then phi goes next because that will be my predicate phrase in this sentence. Phi, and then I have my ... part, but in the ... part goes the subject, and the subject is he. The subject is he. The sentence is about he, and so I would say oia, okay, and I could also just say ia, but in this case I'm saying oia. And then right after the subject comes ma, and right before the object goes ma, so that's why I have ma right there. And then the thing that the sentence is, the object in the sentence is the father of the family. This whole part right there is the object of the sentence. So I would say ma o le ainga. Okay? And excuse me for writing slow, my stylus is acting funny. Okay, so here's that sentence, and hopefully you were able to understand why we did the sentence the way we did. Okay, so the next thing you need to know is in most cases descriptive pronouns are not used with these verbs. So remember descriptive pronouns were what we called preposed. They would come before the verb, or it basically in our descriptive sentence structure it was tense marker, then it was the pronoun, and then the verb or the predicate phrase. Okay, we're not going to be using those descriptive pronouns. So the descriptive pronouns that I can think of most quickly are na, not the same as the tense marker. Then you could say o. You wouldn't want to use that version of I. Then you wouldn't want to use a, this version of you, and then the other ones like lua or to or those versions. You're going to want to use our postpose pronouns, and those are emphatic pronouns. So an example of that is the oia. Okay, so the reason why we use postpose with to become or to act as is because that's the way the sentence structure goes. I told you that the sentence structure is tense marker, then my phi or my avea, okay? So this is acting as the verb, if you will, or the predicate phrase, and then my subject comes next. So I'm doing tense marker, verb, action, or tense marker, action, subject, or doer, okay? And so that's the reason why I use emphatic pronouns if I'm going to use pronouns as the object, okay? And then the other thing that you need to remember, well, we'll get to that in the next slide. So, I was or became a missionary. Again, I would use that same tense, that same sentence structure, sorry. So I was or became a missionary, that's past tense, and the saw would be the appropriate one there. Avea would go next. Then the subject would be au, me, I became is what I'm saying. And then ma always comes right after that subject. And then the object of missionary is se faifeau talai. Okay? And I'm just going to say faifeau. I'm not going to say talai. And then if you moved on to the next sentence, it would be she acted as the president. So again, I would use my sentence structure. I would do saw because it's past tense. Acted as would be phi, and sorry again, I need to get a new stylus it seems. So phi, and then my subject would be o ia, and then ma comes right after that. The president is the object, ma palesiteni, okay? Or pelesiteni, or sorry, peresiteni, whichever one you want to say. The L's and the R's a lot of times can switch. We'll get to that in a later video. Okay, so moving on, the last thing that I want to say is determiners before the object are often omitted, especially with phi-ma. So remember in this sentence back here, in English I would say the president, and in Samoan I'm not seeing a lay right here. Okay, I'm not seeing the Samoan equivalent of the right before the president. And that's because of what I'm just telling you now. Determiners before the object are often omitted, especially with phi-ma. So if you see avea-ma or phi-ma, then you're going to most likely not see a determiner right before the object, okay? And so basically I just want you to think of the ma right here as the determiner. You can just replace ma in avea and phi sentences. You can replace ma with the determiner that would normally be there, okay? So I would normally say Samuel became a doctor, but in Samoan I say Samuel became doctor. Or you could think of ma just replacing that a, or any other kind of determiner. It's just a one-size-fits-all kind of determiner, if you will. I don't know if that's technically true, but I thought it sounded good, so we're going to go with it. So Samuel became a doctor, so I'm going to use my sentence structure. So sa, avea, and then Samuelu, and sorry for the bad handwriting, Samuelu mafomai. Wow. Ma fomai. Okay, so there we go. I could finally write it. So, and that's because fomai right here is the object and Samuelu is the subject. So basically, in a lot of these sentences, you just need to remember, okay, the subject goes in between avea, ma, or phi-ma, and you need to remember that the object goes right after it, and that these determiners don't come before often. They don't come before the object, okay? And then you will become the leader. I would normally say the leader in Samoan, or in English, but in Samoan I would just say you become leader, or if you don't like that, then you can just think of ma replacing whichever determiner you need to. So you will become the leader. This is a future tense, the first future tense that I've shown you. Olea, avea, and then oi, ma tai tai, tai tai, okay? And leadership's a big thing in Samoan, so if anyone said that to you, it'd be kind of a big deal, or they're maybe just pulling your leg. So, but here, that's pretty much it. So just remember, tense marker, phi or avea, then my subject, then my ma, then my object. I said that a million times, but that's what you need to remember in these sentences. And I don't want you to think of it that way. I don't think you need to memorize the sentence to be able to do it right. You just need to remember it's basically, when I use phi-ma and avea-ma, it's basically just an emphatic sentence structure. It's an emphatic sentence marker. It's basically just a tense marker, action, doer. That's basically what this is. And if you want to replace action with, a predicate phrase, if you want to do it that way, and if you wanted to replace doer with subject, that's fine. And then you just, what you do after that is after the doer or the subject, you put a ma, and then you put the object, the thing that the thing that's receiving action. Okay. So there we go. So just remember that. If that helps, go with it. Basically, that's all this is. It's an emphatic sentence structure. It's a special emphatic sentence. It's just you use phi or avea in the action part, and then you put. So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, but just remember that aveama means to become or to be. And phi-ma can mean to act as, to become, or to be. So if you wanted to, you could just use phi-ma and not use avea-ma at all. But to be honest, what I normally do is when I want to say to become, I usually use avea. And that's what I do. But and you'll hear avea, so you need to know it. So anyway, so remember the particle, what we just talked about, the particle or the determiner, so I call it particle here and I call it determiner here. Getting ahead of myself. So the particle ma, so we're talking about ma right here, precedes the object or it comes after the subject, whichever one you want to think, okay? Then remember that descriptive pronouns are not normally used with these verbs because we're using an emphatic sentence structure. And determiner articles, so what I'm saying here is what I said up here, they come before the object of these verbs. The ones that would come before the objects are often omitted. If you wanted to, you could include them, but just know that in Samoan you're going to hear a lot of them omitted, okay? So there's that. Let's move on to some practice sentences. Your practice sentences are these. There's a lot more than usual, but after this you're done. So pause the video, try to translate these, and if you don't pause the video, you're really just hurting yourself. Take advantage of this, okay? So pause the video, and here's the answers. So hopefully you got this. The blue answers are what you should have translated, and good luck, guys. See you next time. Tofa soifua.